Hi, I'm Gene Albert with Lexbe. Welcome to this edition of the Lexbe eDiscovery webinar series. This one is on-demand eDiscovery processing, fast scalable processing capacity to meet any project need. We do these webinars monthly, and they cover a variety of relevant educational eDiscovery topics. And all these presentations are available for download by registrants both in PDF form of the slide decks and also as streaming video. A little bit about Lexbe. We're an Austin, Texas eDiscovery software and services provider, and we provide the Lexbe eDiscovery platform that provides a variety of processing review functions, and with Lexbe eDiscovery services as well. Lexbe was also recently recognized as a top 100 eDiscovery provider by Complementary. If you have any technical questions during the webinar, please email us at webinars@lexbe.com. We'll be watching for that, and we'll respond as needed. Today, our webinars are going to be done by Stu Van Dusen. He's an eDiscovery solutions consultant here at Lexbe, advising legal professionals on litigation data processing, review, and document management. He has a prior business experience in financial services, software, and internet businesses. And he has a Master's of Technology Commercialization from the Texas McCombs School of Business and a BS in Management from Tulane in San Antonio. And with that, I will hand things over to Stu.
Thank you, Gene, and thank you everyone for taking some time to join our webinar. Today our presentation is going to discuss how on-demand eDiscovery processing can be applied to eliminate some inefficient litigation support and eDiscovery costs, integrate discovery tasks, and improve the overall quality of review. To get there, we're going to start briefly by reviewing where processing sits relative to the electronic discovery reference model, and talk about why fast and scalable should be two key criteria when choosing any processing capacity. Then we'll take a look at some traditional processing approaches and some models that discuss how balancing internal and external processing capacities can affect overall costs. Then we'll introduce eProcessing and high-capacity processing to deal how Lexbe is addressing this need for fast, scalable, and integrated processing solutions. For those who attend our webinars frequently, you'll definitely recognize this slide. Whenever we're talking about the need for new technology to support eDiscovery tasks, this is the underlying trend that we're addressing. We've seen and continue to see exponential growth in the amount of data created, captured worldwide, and as a consequence, discovery collections have grown as well. And for the purposes of our presentation today, that means more eDiscovery processing. So here's the electronic discovery reference model. This model is also probably very familiar to most of our audience, and we'll just use it as a quick orientation of our focus. Processing right in the middle of the model is grouped with analysis and review. We understand that these tasks can occur in a non-linear fashion as additional collections trickle in and real-world complications manifest themselves. But in general terms, processing prepares ESI for analysis and review as we move into production. So taking it a level deeper, we can ask some other questions. What is eDiscovery processing? Seems like a fairly basic question, but there's a surprising amount of variability and depth in processing. Fielding metadata is a much less computationally intensive and complex task than TIFFing, for example, yet both can be generally referred to as processing. We also need to know why it's needed. Why are we spending 20% of our eDiscovery budgets here? With an eye on the discovery workflow at large, why are speed and scalability and processing solutions so important? And finally, what cost considerations are there that affect this proportional expenditure? The EDRM does an excellent job concisely summarizing the commonality between all the different forms of and applications of what we call processing. And they do this by stating an aim: perform actions on ESI to allow for metadata preservation, itemization, normalization of format, and data reduction via selection for review. So if you look at the elements of the above workflow diagram, it becomes clear why processing is so fundamental for review. All systems beyond processing are going to strictly rely on the data extractions and insights that occur here at this stage. More specifically, processing is going to support the ability to conduct early case analysis and culling, whether done based on just metadata or full content. From a very technical perspective, we can't review without processing because review systems are designed to handle standardized formats. Even a near-native review system is going to require some level of format standardization at ingestion. Processing is also responsible for extracting data to create indexes, which is the foundation of search and any future application of text-based analytics. The quality of that index will have a direct and profound effect on the complete recall of any search query, and an incomplete index will not find all the documents relevant to your search. On top of that, a comprehensive index is going to be the foundation for any successful application of near-duplicate grouping, predictive coding, and the like. And so any shortfall that occurs in the indexing process, a part of processing, can reverberate through the rest of the case. So we understand that the quality and depth of processing can be majorly consequential, but why are speed and scalability important? Speed is pretty straightforward. We've got so much to do and only so much time to do it in. Discovery deadlines approach quickly, and the faster we can get it done, the sooner attorneys can begin reviewing and building an understanding of the case. Speed also isn't just measured in throughput, but also in how quickly processing can be initiated and how smoothly it can interact with the tasks that precede and follow processing. And scalability, it's all about being flexible. Scalable systems are built to address large and small needs proportionally. That means that the underlying logic of a scalable system doesn't change because of an exceptionally large request. That's in contrast to a non-scalable system that is easily broken when pushed past an operational ceiling. Scalability supports speed, but it's also bidirectional. And what that means is that just because I need to scale up for today's task doesn't mean that I can't scale back down for a smaller task in the future. So that thought leads us right into the major underlying processing cost consideration, which is maintaining non-scalable capacities means you've probably deployed hardware, software, and people that are actively costing firms and organizations money, but not actively supporting operations or the need of any ongoing case. So the next several slides are going to detail what we think the consequences of a non-scalable internal solution can be from a cost perspective and a throughput perspective. So here we have a graph that shows the changing processing demand over a hypothetical 12-month period at a law firm. So there's a consistent trough or low need that you can see here with several significant jumps that are occurring throughout the year. One major spike that lasts for a significant period of time, perhaps the result of a particularly data-intensive case or several cases with some overlapping timelines. So this slide, this shows us what happens when firms will make the decision to increase that internal capacity by deploying hardware, software, and people in response to peak demand. So through the year staffing for when demand or gigabyte processing needs are going to be the highest. And that red line on the graph, that represents our internal capacity. Any pink area that you see underneath the line, but above the blue area, represents inactive internal resources, and that is costs not aligned with any particular revenue source. So because of the nature of capital expenditures like server hardware or long-term software contracts, firms can't just stop paying for these hard internal capacity when demand goes down. They're stuck with them. The server is paid for, but not operating on anything that generates revenue back to the firm. Software is licensed, but similarly with no return on investment. And while staffing can be slightly more flexible than hardware and software costs, unmanaged internal processing servers tend not to live very long or productive lives before failing. Alternatively, firms and organizations can make the decision to staff in line with their consistent need. That means few, if any, internal capacities that are not always active. What this looks like is that year-round internal resources are occupied, expenditures are aligned, internal expenditures are aligned with revenue-generating activities. And with these internal resources being efficiently deployed, managing capacity now revolves around finding external solutions that can scale up for these sudden demand surges like we see in the middle of this 12-month period. So when evaluating any external processing option, there's really 4 key considerations that will ensure that the move to an external provider actually translates into the cost savings and operational improvement that are implied by our previous model. And so first and foremost concern is quality. As we said, processing is at the core of all that comes after it. And so we need to ensure that best practices are followed by any external processing provider. And we tend to have a commodified view of processing, but in reality, how it's done can certainly matter, and providers need to be executing on best practices. Speed's number 2, and scalability fits in here as well. External providers need to be able to provide the throughput that's needed to get these massive collections processed within specified timelines. So any provider with a fixed non-scalable capacity will have some throughput ceiling that they hit that would prevent them from being able to deliver on time given a particularly large demand. So the next consideration is price. Is it affordable? Can external providers complete the processing task at the reduced cost that firms and organizations are really looking for when they're going up to vendors? It doesn't make sense to go outside if it's not going to reduce your overall spend. So more importantly than the actual price is whether or not this pricing model is a predictable one, so that we can budget, plan, and clearly value a case going forward. There's stories out there of processing quotes so excessive that they become a major motivational factor in parties reaching settlement. So what's important here is you get the idea that you shouldn't and don't need to be paying for more than you're getting. The final consideration to make for an external processing solution would be integration. How easy is it going to be to move the process data into an ECA or a review system to fit in with the existing internal processes? We want to avoid having to move collections between modules as much as possible. We lose an unbelievable amount of time there, and we experience tremendous complications during these transfers. But if we do need to move the data, it needs to be simple and it needs to be fast. So the Lexbe Engine is our core technology that supports our ability to deliver high-quality, fast, scalable, affordable, and integrated processing. So when you consider those alternative non-scalable approaches, what that generally involves is some fixed number of servers being managed by some fixed number of operators. And so these capacity and throughput ceilings are solid and they're known. With Lexbe's technology, the capacity and the number of servers that can be applied to any particular processing task is, for all practical purposes, unlimited. And the way this works is incoming ESI is portioned out, as you can see in the diagram to the right here. We have incoming ESI, and that's portioned out into whatever number of servers would be appropriate to complete the processing task within the specified time frame. So let's take an example to see how that can translate into processing in the order of hours and days rather than weeks and months. So consider the example. We have 1 terabyte to process the TIFF, and we have a timeline of 1 month to do it, and sort of take a look at how internal capacity versus a scalable capacity would handle that task. So first, what would that look like with an internal capacity? Well, let's say we have 10 locally installed servers, and that's a significant number of servers. That implies a fairly decent-sized litigation support department within a firm. We need to TIFF this terabyte. And to TIFF this terabyte, we see rates of anywhere from 1/4 gig to 2 gigs a day with popular local install processing software. For our example, let's assume peak internal server performance of 2 gigs a day. We'll assume the fastest that we hear for throughput on these kinds of machines. So for 10 servers with 10 licenses operating nonstop for 30 days, it's another key assumption here that we're staffing these resources 24/7 to get that done. That gets us to 600 gigabytes at the end of the month with internal capacity and some some interesting assumptions that we're going to be working 24/7 and at top rate, and that we're not going to run into any complications along the way. Alternatively, if we applied this same situation to the Lexbe engine and our scalable capacity, it would start with, well, when does this need to be done? In that same scenario, we would use this information just, to determine how much we need to scale. Start with the timeline, how fast does this need to be done, and then determine what are the appropriate resources to scale up to ensure not only that it's done within that time frame, but perhaps significantly earlier as well. So to get this job done in a month, and we'll assume here that the servers in our backend are operating at the same rate, just for simplicity as these locally installed servers. We would throw 20 servers at it, and at 2 gigs a day over 30 days, we'd be done in about 20 days. Or we could throw 500 servers at it at 2 gigs a day, and we could finish that terabyte in a single day, if that's necessary. But the key thing to underline here is that with this Lexbe approach, the cost for either time option is going to be the same. And that's any truly scalable processing solution, is that you can increase capacity and decrease the turnaround time, and it's going to cost the same. And you do not have that flexibility with any non-scalable solution. So the Lexbe Engine's scalable approach, that underlying foundational technology, that breaks down into two main forms, main offerings from Lexbe, and that's eProcessing and high-capacity processing. So these are complementary offerings that cover the range of processing needs with true scalability. And so both approaches share some things in common. Both approaches have the same processing features applied, ingestion and export functionality. Both are priced per gigabyte. Both integrate with Lexbe ECA and review environments. But the options are unique in how they're delivered. So eProcessing, and that's the focus of our talk today, is on-demand processing software that is accessible through an internet browser. You upload your ESI, and our servers are reactively deployed to process what you've uploaded. And by contrast, high-capacity processing is a managed processing service, and this is for when you have an enormous collection, an especially tight deadline, or some combination thereof. So high-capacity processing, different than eProcessing, which is operating through web browsers, through a GUI. This is operating as a service on a push-pull basis. So what that means is that ESI is uploaded, pushed to Lexbe via secure FTP transfer, and any outputs are pulled back down, downloaded by the client when the processing is complete. So high-capacity also differs from eProcessing, that it's scheduled for particularly large jobs, and so servers are reserved and managed to be deployed specifically for that task. For now, let's focus on the eProcessing software. So eProcessing software workflows are very simple, straightforward, and designed to be automated and simply administered. So let's kind of walk down these steps here. So number one, all it takes is logging into a secure web account, and this web account is accessible from all popular browsers on PC and Mac systems. Then users upload native ESI from their local machines for an initial extraction, processing, and PDF creation. Once users have initiated this process, there's no need to babysit. A completion email sent out automatically as part of the automated self-administration functionality. So at completion, QC processes are applied, and then there's an opportunity to cull at that point. And that cull is going to be based on a full native and OCR extraction rather than just a simple metadata cull. And we'll talk more about that shortly. And then the next step would be to export or produce those documents in a process-native TIFF, PDF, or all three formats. Another completion email lets you know when that's done as well. And at that point, you're ready to load for review. And if you're using the Lexbe eDiscovery platform, the documents will be ready for search, further analysis, culling, ECA right after step 3. No need to transfer between databases. So let's sort of quickly recap, what the key qualities of the Lexbe solution are. So first and foremost, it's a scalable solution. And the system architecture allows Lexbe to massively increase the server instances as needed to apply as many resources as are needed to accomplish an eDiscovery processing task. And following that, it's fully automated, so there's no need to babysit or sit and administer and watch as this thing processes. You can go away, and as we've noted, completion email is automatically sent when the job is done. And finally, these are fault tolerant, and these processing tasks are not batch centric. And the checkout and check-in procedures ensure that individual processing steps are able to operate independently. So one of the most important elements of any one of these eDiscovery solutions, be it for processing, review, ECA, anything, is security. And eProcessing servers operate within the Amazon Web Service, and this is a cloud environment that it incorporates Amazon's Elastic Compute Cloud, Amazon's Simple Storage Service, and Elastic Block Store technology. It's a top-notch service provider for the infrastructure, network, and physical security layers of any cloud-based network environment. And their servers are maintained in secure, limited access, physically isolated data centers, monitored from network operating centers 24/7, 365, no days off. The AWS data center personnel do not have any logical access to the Lexbe applications or to the data of any Lexbe customers at any time. So simply put, this server security is the core competency of the administrators of the AWS system, which is Lexbe's processing data center. So here, talk about quality in processing, and that's supported by heavily supported by what features are available, what's actually happening to the data when processed. So here's a list of key features that we have, including archive and container decompression, file repair, metadata extraction, hash code generation, DNIST, and all and the remainder that you can see on the screen here. So again, on that same quality point, the quality control tools and features that one would expect from an advanced processing tool are absolutely there, and so that ranges from programmatic batching of processing to reduce human error, the ability to create custom QC flags, an integration with Excel for instant and more thorough reporting and analysis, built-in pivot table analysis and charting, the ability to view all documents, including the parent container, so that means emails and attachments together. You can verify image quality, filter and report by captured or calculated fields, including placeholders, failing to convert certain words in a document, etc. And native files are extracted and provided for linked load and review. So to boil all of this down and reconnect it back with what we identified as the key elements of any good processing solution, sort of walk through these. So eProcessing fulfills that speed and scalability requirement by letting you access the fastest on-demand processing that's available anytime you need it, anywhere that you have an internet connection, to increase overall ability to process. Talk about increasing the responsiveness to changing business demands and deadlines while maintaining high quality. eProcessing gives us the ability to grow capacity in a scalable way as demand increases without it adding additional fixed hardware costs or any support staff. And along with this, we can eliminate the high overhead associated with monitoring processing jobs on these internally installed local servers by using a fully automated system with notification upon completion of processing tasks. And then we talk about pricing and whether that's an affordable option and a predictably priced option. That's what we've got here. We have a per gigabyte model that requires no additional license, user, startup, and the like fees. And back to a quality point here, the quality of search and analytics quality of any search and analytics that's coming after the kind of thorough processing that's applied in the eProcessing software is going to be it's going to be elite. So and that's all based off of the dual index methodology, which we'll talk a little bit more here about in a second. And then the ability, of eProcessing to integrate processing tasks, early case analysis, and review into one single platform. That's huge in eliminating the time, risk, costs associated with moving this data between different modules and sort of a complicated setup where you're unable to access ECA features in the processing module, unable to access review features in the ECA, and back and forth. Having the ability to access all the features and functionality of these three highly correlated tasks in one place is hugely advantageous. As I said, we would talk a little bit more about dual indexing. That's something that we're very proud of at Lexbe, and that's because we think that it underpins a higher quality search, a higher quality ability to apply text analytics. Anything that's going to be based on text index is going to be a higher quality when you've applied a dual index. And the dual index is a search index that's created from both a native and OCR extraction from the case documents. And what that means is that the entirety of the document's contents are searchable. So if you're only building searches off of a native extraction, you've got an embedded or an image text blind spot. And if you only OCR, you'll miss hidden text and text that won't appear in a print view. So spreadsheets are a particularly good example of a document type that breaks if OCR'd exclusively as hidden columns, fields, comments, notes, and the like. Anything that won't appear on a print will not be searchable without that native extraction. And so dual indexing is the only way to be sure that your search recall is as comprehensive as possible. And that doesn't only affect search, but that's going to affect culling, and as I say, the ability to conduct any text-based analytics as well. And so many systems employ a workflow where culling is based primarily on a quick metadata extraction. So there's a metadata extraction, a cull, and then further processing into a review format. So metadata is obviously very useful, but may be a flawed foundation for a defensible cull. Culling based on content is going to give you a more comprehensive view of why we're culling and what we would cull and what's going to move on for review. It can also be more effective at reducing the data set. Moreover, eProcessing lets you avoid moving that data between the processing and ECA application. And so you can control both tasks from the same GUI. And finally, there's no additional cost associated with culling when you take this approach versus modulated approaches where each stage involves its own distinct cost. And so this integrative feature of eProcessing extends past ECA and into review as well. So any deprocessing is immediately available for review, further avoiding those time-consuming and risky data transfers. And it's ready in a full-featured review environment with case management utility and any of the features and functionality that you would expect from a top-notch review application. So stated plainly, eProcessing smoothly integrates processing, ECA, review, and production into one highly secure database. So to wrap things up, in summary, today we went through the basics of eDiscovery processing. Now, patiently let me review back through some eDiscovery 101, and then we talked about how some of the traditional workflows and where they fall apart. We discussed the balance between internally staffing and sourcing capacity externally to make the point that these scalable tools can be the most cost-efficient solutions available. And then we showed you our version of this in our eProcessing software and our high-capacity processing service. These are scalable, fast, high-quality processing solutions that integrate ECA and review environments to reduce both the time and cost of eDiscovery. And that's all I've got for you today. Here's Gene.
Stu, thank you. That was really interesting. And thank everybody for attending. If you have any questions, please follow up and contact us at one of the emails or one of the phone numbers here, and we would be happy to help. Thank you again for attending, and we'll have another webinar next month.